Episode 1. She found her footprints before she arrived. Evelyn didn't remember walking up the path, but her footprints were already there. 12 of them, wet, still fresh, leading to the front door of a house that hadn't been open in 20 years. Her mother had vanished in that house, but Evelyn was only just arriving. At least, she thought she was. The key turned easily, too easily. The door creaked not from age, but from habit, like it had grown used to opening for someone who kept forgetting they'd already entered. Inside, the air was still. No dust, no cobwebs, only quiet. That was the first wrong thing. No house sits untouched for 2 decades. And, the second wrong thing, the record player was spinning, playing softly, a song Evelyn remembered, but not from childhood, from a dream, one where her mother whispered, "Don't come back before I leave." She walked into the foyer, saw her coat, the same one she was wearing, already hanging on the hook, a dried leaf stuck to the collar, the same one she had just brushed off her shoulder outside, and beside it, on the floor, muddy footprints, fresh, identical, but this time, there were 13. She followed them, through the hallway, past the kitchen, to the parlor, where a lamp flickered, not from faulty wiring, from hesitation, as if light was unsure whether it had already illuminated this moment. And then she saw it, on the armchair, resting delicately, a teacup, still warm, still full, with lipstick on the rim, her mother's color, her mother's cup. Evelyn reached for it, but stopped, because from the hallway behind her, she heard it, her own voice. "I shouldn't be here yet." She turned. No one, just silence, and the ticking of a grandfather clock that hadn't ticked in decades. Only now, it was counting backward. She ran upstairs, to her old bedroom, to the mirror she had broken at 17, now perfectly whole, except her reflection was still crying. She whispered, "Where did you go, Mom?" And from behind the mirror, as if from inside the wall, a voice answered, "I left after you came home." Evelyn stepped back. Her reflection stayed, and smiled. Episode 2. The night that happened twice. Evelyn woke up in the dark, but it wasn't the same darkness she'd fallen asleep to. This one was too still, too perfect, like a replica of night, designed by someone who had only read about it in dreams. The air was cold, but not sharp, like the cold that remembers being warmth and mourns it. She looked at the clock beside her bed. 3:17 a.m., same time as last night, same chill, same whisper of wind through the hallway vent. Only this time, she remembered already living through it. She rose, not from confusion, from confirmation. The floorboards creaked at the same intervals. The light flickered the same way when she opened the hallway door. Even the shadows seemed to pause, in the same shape they had taken before. Halfway to the stairs, she heard it, footsteps, soft, measured, coming from the kitchen. She leaned over the banister, there, moving slowly beneath the chandelier, herself, wearing the same clothes, same braid, same trembling hand brushing the wallpaper. The other Evelyn didn't look up, didn't notice her. She moved like someone being remembered, not someone alive. Evelyn stepped backward, silent, careful, but the stair behind her groaned. And, suddenly, the second Evelyn stopped, looked up, eyes wide, as if hearing a noise from a memory she hadn't lived yet. Then she whispered, "I'm not supposed to be seen yet," and vanished. The kitchen light clicked on. The chandelier swayed, and the hallway behind Evelyn filled with warm air that hadn't been warm since her mother disappeared. She turned to one, but the door to her bedroom was gone. In its place, a mirror, cracked. Her reflection stood within it, but it wasn't moving. It was sleeping, breathing, and in her hand, the same notebook Evelyn had just started reading that morning. Only now, it was burned on the mirror's surface. A phrase appeared drawn in fog. "Don't wake yourself before you remember what you forgot." A knock echoed behind her. She turned. No one there, but in her room, her real room, across time. She was still in bed, sleeping, and just beginning to wake up. Episode 3. Her mother left after she returned. The recorder clicked on by itself. Evelyn hadn't touched it. She hadn't even noticed it before. A dusty reel-to-reel sitting on the shelf, beneath her father's old books. But now, the tape was spinning, and a voice crackled through. "You shouldn't be here yet, Evelyn." Her mother's voice, warm, calm, certain, dead for 20 years, but speaking as if she'd been waiting just hours. Evelyn knelt in front of the machine. She didn't dare breathe. The voice continued, "By the time you hear this, I'll have left, but don't confuse that with being gone." She pressed her hand to the casing. It vibrated gently, alive, like the house had remembered how to hum. "You're going to ask about the windows in the east hallway. No, they weren't always mirrors. They became mirrors. The moment I looked at you and saw time blink. Evelyn frowned, because just that morning, she had passed the east hallway and seen her own face blink before she did. She hadn't said a word, hadn't written it down, but her mother already knew, already answered. I wasn't taken, Evelyn. I left after you returned. Returned. She had only just come back to the house. After 20 years, what return could her mother have possibly meant? Unless, no, impossible. The voice paused, the static rose, then softened, and then came the sound Evelyn feared more than words. Footsteps, not through the speakers. Behind her, she turned. No one, but the hallway light had turned itself off. And on the floor, a photograph, black and white, curled at the edges, of her mother, holding a child that looked exactly like Evelyn, only younger, smaller. She picked up the photo. On the back, scribbled in shaky ink, you were never supposed to come back. Before I left. The recorder clicked again, rewound itself, played one final line. If you find the garden door unlocked, do not open it. That's where you come back again, but not as you. Evelyn dropped the photo, ran to the kitchen, to the back of the house, to the garden door. It was already open, and footprints were leading in, small ones. Her own. Episode 4 of The Room That Woke Up First. A space without sleep, when a room remembers time before it's lived. There was a room in the attic no one spoke about. It didn't have a door, just a faded outline in the wallpaper, like someone had painted over the entrance to a memory that refused to stay hidden. But tonight, Evelyn saw it. The outline glowed faintly. Breathing, waiting, she pressed her palm to it, felt warmth, then cold, then something deeper. Recognition, and turn. It opened. No hinges, no creak, just surrender. The house let her in. The attic beyond was not dark. It was lit by daylight, soft, pale, coming from a window that shouldn't exist, facing east, yet flooded with light from a sun that had long since set. She stepped inside, and the air shifted, like she was walking into a room that had already woken up without her. Just hovered midair, motionless, as if time had been paused, not out of stillness, but out of anticipation. In the center, a child's bed, unmade. Beside it, a diary, open to a page she hadn't written, but her name was at the top. Evelyn woke up again today. She asked the same question, but I didn't answer. She needs to remember on her own. She flipped back, every page filled, but not by her, by someone who knew her rhythms, her doubts, her voice. One entry read, she'll open the room tonight at 3:04 a.m. She won't knock. She checked the clock. 3:04 a.m. Her breath caught, from behind her, the sound of a drawer opening. Hello, careful, like it didn't want to wake the wrong part of the past. She turned and saw herself, 7 years old, wearing a red sweater, the same one from a photo long burned, staring out the window. The child. Evelyn didn't turn, didn't blink. She just spoke. You asked where she went. She didn't go anywhere. She's just still here in the wrong year. Evelyn stepped forward, trembling. Are you real? The child nodded slowly. I was the first version to know, but I forgot on purpose. You didn't. The room dimmed, not dark, closed, as if a page had been turned. Not in a book, but in reality. And the child vanished, leaving only a mirror on the wall, etched with a phrase. You are not reliving time. You are stepping into memories before they happen. Evelyn backed out of the room. The outline sealed itself. The wallpaper smoothed once more, but on her sleeve, a smear of red crayon, and in her own handwriting, just above her wrist, don't let her wake the wrong version. Episode 5. The mirror that showed tomorrow's bruises. Reflected pain, foretold wounds when the body answers to a future that hasn't touched it yet. The mirror fought over. Even though Evelyn had turned on the water, the faucet was dry, the air cold, but still, the glass wept softly, as if something on the other side had been breathing too hard. From watching, she reached for the cloth to wipe it, paused, then used her sleeve instead. What she saw wasn't right. Her reflection stared back. Same eyes, same tired mouth, but on her neck, a dark, thumb-shaped bruise, deep purple, fresh. She reached up to touch it. Nothing. Smooth skin, no pain, not yet. She turned on the light, stepped back, looked again. Still there, still perfect, still coming. A whisper in her head. It's not showing what happened. It's showing what memory is preparing. She opened her blouse, checked her shoulder, a faint scratch beneath her collarbone. Thin, shallow. She looked back in the mirror. There, that same scratch, but longer, redder. angrier, almost shaped. Her chest rose and fell too fast. Her pulse stuttered, and in the mirror, beneath the bruises, she saw her hands shaking, but hers were still. That's when she noticed it, in the bottom corner of the mirror, etched into the silvering, hidden by time. You will become what the house remembers. She slammed the bathroom door, ran to the hallway, to the only place she hadn't dared open yet, the linen closet, behind the towels, beneath the loose floorboard, her mother's old makeup bag, inside, concealer, a cracked compact, and a stack of Polaroids, each one of Evelyn, different days, different outfits, all with bruises, in the same places the mirror had shown. And on the back of the last photo, don't stop it, let the body prepare, or the mind will take the damage instead. She returned to the bathroom, looked again. The thumping bruise was darker now, and her neck began to ache. Throb, heat rising under skin that had been clean minutes before. She whispered, "Who hurts me?" And from the mirror, not spoken aloud, but across the glass like breath-ridden warning, "You do." When you try to leave the zone, the mirror fought again, completely this time. And when it cleared, there was no reflection, only her bruises, hovering in the air, where she should have been. Episode 6, the basement where she buried herself. Rotting time, layered death when the past reveals not a ghost, but your own discarded version. The basement door had always been locked, not with a key. With dread, Evelyn passed it every night. Sometimes it breathed, other nights it bled, thin lines of black water that no one ever cleaned. But tonight, it stood ajar, not inviting, not threatening, just ready. She descended slowly, each step a question the house had already answered. The air smelled of copper and moss, of time that never dried. And then she saw it, at the base of the stairs, a body, wrapped in linen, half buried in soil, that wasn't dug up, so much as given away. She moved closer. The hair was familiar, so was the curve of the spine, the scar behind the ear. Her hand trembled as she pulled back the sheet. It was her, not freshly dead, not skeletal, somewhere in between, like the body had been waiting to decay just enough to be recognized. On the wrist, a bracelet, hers, still warm, still pulsating. She stepped back, choking on silence, and saw the message carved into the wall above the grave. Rough, slashed in with fingernails. This version ended here. She turned to flee, but the door at the top of the stairs slammed shut. The light bulb flickered, then popped. Darkness swallowed her, but not emptiness. From behind the wall, a voice like her own whispered, "You asked to remember. Not all memories are alive." She crouched beside the corpse, not out of comfort, out of kinship, and noticed a piece of paper clutched in his hand. Old, damp, torn. She pried it free, in her mother's handwriting. The house gives each Evelyn a moment. Only one gets to leave. The rest become part of the foundation. She screamed, pounded on the door. No answer, but the soil beneath her feet began to move. Not downward, up, as if the basement was preparing another grave for another version. Then the light returned, dim, flickering. The door creaked open, and someone stood there. Her own face, but cleaner, younger, more intact. The version from the mirror. It looked down, not cruel, not kind, just final, and whispered, "I came back down to bury you properly this time." Episode 7, the tape recorder that spoke before she hit play. Recorded future, borrowed memory when the machine knows what you'll say before you do. The recorder was already spinning. No one had touched it. It Saturday on her nightstand, plugged into nothing. Tape whirring quietly, like it had been recording for days. Inside a moment, that hadn't arrived yet. Evelyn stared at it. The red light blinked, then stayed solid, then blinked again, as if sensing to her breath. She hadn't spoken, hadn't pushed play, hadn't even thought about touching it, but the tape began to rewind itself. Fast, urgent, then stopped. Click. The reel hissed, crackled, and then she heard it, her own voice. "I know what you're thinking, that this is some kind of echo, that the house is just repeating my words. But I'm not repeating, I'm remembering forward." Evelyn stepped back. The voice continued, still hers, but the tone was different, older, not in age, in experience, like it had already survived what Evelyn hadn't faced yet. "You're going to open the window tomorrow. You'll think the air smells sweeter. It's not, it's the room preparing you. Don't speak when the birds go silent." The hair on her arm stood up. She glanced at the window. It was closed. The night outside pressed like a memory not ready to be recalled. She whispered, "How are you doing this?" The recorder answered, "You gave me permission. When you asked to remember, this house doesn't echo voices. It archives them." Then came a pause, long, thick, and in the silence, A second voice, still hers, but broken, hoarse, desperate. If you're hearing this part, then you've already made the wrong turn. Don't go to the study. Not yet. He's still in there. The reel screeched, stopped, ejected itself. The tape, once black, was now red. The label rewritten by hand. July 12th before it happened. Evelyn looked at the calendar. Today was July 11th. She blinked and realized on her forearm, faint but visible, a burn just beneath the skin, like a coil had pressed against her, like she'd already been holding the recorder. Tomorrow, she didn't sleep that night, and at 4:03 a.m., when the birds outside all stopped singing at once, she did not speak. She just listened as the recorder began playing again, without tape, without her, without mercy. Episode 8, the letter she never wrote but received. Pre-written fate, haunted ink when the future sends back instructions in your own handwriting. She didn't mean to open the drawer. It moved on its own, slowly, like an old throat learning to whisper. Inside, nothing but a single envelope, yellowed, unsealed, and folded, as if it had been read many times by someone who hadn't read it yet. Her name was on the front. Evie, not Evelyn, just initials, written in a jagged version of her own hand. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded it. It wasn't long. It didn't need to be. It began without greeting, without explanation. Just, "You're almost out." She stared at the ink. It was old, still wet, both at once. The basement version died. The attic version fractured. The one that touched the mirror never made it past day 9. But you remembered to listen, to burn what needed burning, and to never let the clock strike 3:33. Evelyn swallowed, checked the watch on her wrist. 3:31 a.m. She kept reading. "If you want to leave, go now. Do not finish the 13th step. That one doesn't lead out. That one leads in. Don't listen to the other version of me. She wants to stay. She thinks becoming the house is survival. It isn't." Evelyn dropped the letter, turned to the doorway. It was already fading, like the wood had forgotten how to frame exits. She ran down the hall, to the staircase. Every step echoed before her foot landed, time folding into anticipation. But at the bottom of the stairs, her mother stood, smiling, unmoving, wearing the same dress from the day she vanished. The day Evelyn was 10, the day the house stopped pretending to be a home. "Don't go," her mother said softly. "You just got back." Evelyn clutched the letter, shaking, torn, and her mother's smile widened. Too far, too long, not human. Then the house spoke through the walls. All versions must write the letter. Only one receives it in time. She turned, fled to the front door. Her hands reached for the knob, but it wasn't brass anymore. It was bone, warm, pulsing. Behind her, the letter caught fire in midair. No smoke, only a single phrase. Burning last. Don't look back at her. She never was your mother. She's the memory the house made to keep you curious. Evelyn ran, and the door was opened. But what waited outside was not freedom. It was another version of the house. Still waiting, still remembering. Episode 9, the dinner they never had. Fabricated joy. Looping deceit when comfort is a case stitched from forgotten longing. Evelyn hadn't eaten in days. Not out of choice, but because the food in the house either rotted in reverse or never spoiled at all. Still warm, still plated, still waiting. That night, the dining room lights were already on. Candlelit, flickering, chandeliers swaying without wind. She stepped inside, stopped breathing, and saw herself seated at the head of the table, fork in hand, smiling, across from her mother, alive, radiant, laughing like no time had passed, like nothing had ever broken. The table was set for two: roast chicken, potatoes, wine in crystal glasses. Her mother sliced a piece of bread and placed it neatly on Evelyn's plate, and the Evelyn at the table said, "Thanks, Mom. You always remembered how I like it." The real Evelyn, the watching one, backed against the doorframe, heart thudding, mouth dry, because this wasn't memory, this was invention. The Evelyn at the table looked up, met her eyes, didn't flinch, didn't seem surprised, just asked, "Which one of us is real?" Her mother turned to, softly, lovingly, as if the question had been asked before. "We're both real, sweetheart. We just remember different things." The candlelight flickered harder. The wine shifted in its glass, and a second table flickered into existence behind the first. Same scene, slightly altered. Now her mother was crying, the food untouched. The Evelyn seated looked thinner, palms bleeding, and whispered, "You always said we'd eat together again." Then a third table, a fourth, a fifth, all looping, all spinning scenes she never lived, but somehow felt. dinners that never happened, arguments never spoken, forgiveness never earned. She stepped forward. The original table remained still. The Evelyn seated there spoke gently. You can sit, or you can watch, but the house won't let you forget this again. Evelyn walked to the chair, her chair, hands shaking. She Saturday. The food was warm, real. She cut into the chicken, and heard a voice whisper from inside it. Stay too long, and this becomes your truth. She dropped the fork. The Evelyn across from her smiled. Not sweet, not kind, fixed, like porcelain, painted with memory. If you leave now, she dies again. If you stay, she never did. There split behind her, a sound like breath turning cold. In the hallway reappeared, empty, dark, waiting. Evelyn stood, tears burning. Her mother reached for her hand. Don't leave me again. But this time, Evelyn remembered. You left me first, and walked out. The dining room vanished behind her, but the warmth stayed in her palm. For hours. Episode 10, the morning that kept bleeding backward. Unraveling time. Reversed on when sunrise doesn't begin the day. It ends the person. The first morning unraveled like a thread. Light spilled through the curtains too fast. Not soft like dawn, but sharp, like a blade pulled backward. Evelyn blinked once. The sun was already at its peak. She blinked again, and it was gone. She woke in bed, fully dressed, shoes muddy, hands cold. She checked the clock. 5:42 a.m., the same minute it always was. Before time decided to rewind itself, she rose, opened the curtains, and the world outside was in grayscale. Still, muted, the sun hovered low, refusing to rise, refusing to stay. She whispered, "What day is this?" And from the hallway mirror, her reflection melted. Not anymore. Each time she closed her eyes, a different morning bled backward through her bones. She saw breakfast laid out, then uneaten, then removed, then forgotten. She saw bruises fade up her arms, like time regretting its cruelty. She saw herself laughing with her mother at the table that no longer existed. Then younger, smaller, 10, then 7, then 5. She screamed herself awake. The clock still read 5:42, but her fingers, too small. She ran to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and saw a girl. Her eyes, her mouth, but 8 years too young. She whispered, "What's happening to me?" And the girl in the mirror said, "You stayed too long in the wrong memory. Now the house is rewriting you, the only way it knows how." Outside, the sky flickered like a faulty film reel. Morning, dusk, dawn, night, dawn again, but always bleeding backward. She clawed through drawers, found the only thing untouched, a journal entry, written in her adult hand, titled, "If I wake up younger again, read this." It read, "Don't let the sun touch your skin, don't let the light name you. If it erases too many days, you'll forget why you came, and when you forget, the house starts remembering for you." She wrapped herself in curtains, hid in the hallway, but even there, her memories thinned. She forgot her father's voice, then her favorite book, then her own handwriting. And when the clock ticked backward to 5:41, the hallway wall began to breathe, exhaling fog. And from the fog, her mother's voice, "Come outside, Effie, it's morning." She almost listened, but then she looked down and saw her feet, no longer those of a woman, bare, small, too small. She screamed, threw the journal into the light, and as it caught fire, time paused. The house exhaled, the clock stopped blinking, and she was Evelyn again, grown, broken, remembering, for now. Episode 11, the clock that laughed at noon. Chronological cruelty, sentient time when the hour strikes memory instead of minutes. The grandfather clock in the living room had never worked. Its hands were bouncing at 12, its pendulum still, its chimes long silenced by dust and avoidance. But today, at exactly noon, it laughed. Not a chime, not a creak, a low, rattling laugh that echoed from the gears, as though something inside had remembered what it found funny about keeping time. Evelyn Frowncy at the top of the stairs watched the long brass arms twitch, once, twice, then spin backward. So fast the numbers blurred. She stepped down. Each tick sounded like a breath, taken in reverse. Each talk, a whisper she hadn't yet. Then the clock spoke, not in words, but in sound. The same sound her mother made. At night she vanished. A gasp, followed by silence, followed by something wet, falling on wood. Evelyn staggered, held the wall, felt it pulse with her heartbeat, but the heartbeat wasn't hers. It belonged to the house, to the clock, to the thing inside it. She approached the face. The glass reflected nothing, only static, but carved beneath the numbers. Barely visible. Time doesn't pass here. It plays. The laughter began again, higher, wider, children's giggles woven with coughs, sobs turned into rhythm, and inside the chime box, a tape recorder, not plugged in, not wound, playing, her voice. It's noon again. I keep forgetting what I'm not allowed to remember. Then a second voice, also hers, but cracked, weary, years older. Stop trying to leave at noon. Noon is when the house turns you backward. Every Evelyn who tried to escape at 12 forgot where they were running from. She looked at the door, wide open, sunlight streaming in, freedom, perfectly timed. Her foot reached for the threshold, and the clock laughed louder, no longer cruel, just knowing, because the moment she stepped through, she forgot her name, then her age, then why she was running. She fell to her knees on the front porch, tears rising, with no origin. She looked back. The house was gone, replaced with a field, empty, still, and the clock stood alone, in the grass, its arms ticking once more. But now, each tick sounded like her own heartbeat, and each talk said, "You already left once. That's why you can't leave again." Episode 12. The scream she hadn't heard yet echoed terror, future fracture when the house lets you hear your breaking point before you arrive at it. It started as a whisper, thin, sharp, threading through floorboards, like wind that had learned how to bleed. Evelyn Saturday in the study, hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea she didn't remember making, her head heavy with unslept hours. Then the whisper changed, stretched, widened, and became a scream. It wasn't from outside, not even from upstairs. It came from everywhere at once. The walls shivered, books fell, the chandelier swung like a noose caught in regret, and the sound tore through her like memory. Not someone else's pain, hers, but not from now, from later. Evelyn covered her ears, but the scream still pushed through, not with volume, with recognition. She had never heard herself sound like that. She didn't know she could. The clock in the corner struck to 19, then to 18, then to 20. Time panicked, trying to rewind or skip whatever was supposed to happen next. But the house had already decided. It wanted her to hear it, all of it. The scream didn't stop. It evolved, cracked, collapsed into sobbing, then back into screaming again. A loop of a moment she hadn't lived, but had already broken inside of. And, turn, silence. Evelyn stood, her legs unsure. The teacup shattered on the floor behind her. She walked room to room, listening, searching for the version of herself who had already collapsed. She found nothing, not at first, until she reached the upstairs hallway mirror, and written in condensation on the glass, "That was you, 3 days from now. Don't let it be." She backed away, chest heaving, throat tight, and the voice behind her said, not cruelly, but softly, "It only screams that loud. If the truth is something you won't survive." She spun, no one there, only the stairwell and the ticking of a metronome she hadn't seen in years, sitting on the bottom step. Each tick was a heartbeat, each talk a countdown. She whispered, "What am I about to find?" And from the attic above her, barely audible, her own voice, muffled by distance, "Don't look in the box." She didn't know which box, but now she knew there was one, and that she was going to open it, because the scream was already hers. It had just come early. Episode 13. The day she wasn't born again. Finale. Temporal erasure. Sacred undoing when escape requires unexisting the version that dared to return. Evelyn found the box just before dawn, not hidden, not buried, just waiting beneath her childhood bed, wrapped in a red blanket that hadn't smelled like her mother's perfume into decades. She didn't remember putting it there, but she remembered being told never to open it, by the mirror, by the letter, by the scream. And still, her hands moved, slowly, gently, like she was unwrapping herself. Inside, not photographs, not bones, just a single piece of paper, folded into a perfect square, and ink that looked too much like blood to not be memory. It read, "You were not born once. You were born many times." And each version that remembered left something behind. Underneath that, a name, crossed out, then another, 13 in total. The last one, Evelyn Thorne, underlined, and beneath it, handwritten in her own looping script, "Do not let her remember again." She looked around. The room was emptying, not of objects, of meaning. Her drawings faded, her perfume bottles turned to dust, the mirror swallowed its reflection, and when she touched the floor, it felt like static, like her presence was an interference the house could no longer tolerate. She stood, walked downstairs. The entire house tilted as she moved, not physically, but narratively, like the story had stopped making sense and was now unraveling its own timeline. just to be free of her. At the front door stood the final version of herself. Calm, still, no longer asking questions, wearing the same clothes Evelyn had worn the night her mother disappeared. She said, "You did well, you remembered too much, and now there's no room left for what you were." Evelyn's lips quivered. "But I want to leave." The other Evelyn nodded. "You can, but not as you. Only one version gets to be born again, and it has to be the one that never came back. A choice, stay, trapped, remembered forever in the walls, as an echo of grief, or step through the door and forget she ever returned. Forget her mother, forget the scream, forget the 13 episodes of herself the house had archived like sins in glass. She looked back once. The house was empty now, of memory, of presence. Only one heartbeat remained, and it was hers. She whispered to the version at the door, "Promise me you won't come back." The other Evelyn smiled. "I promise, because I won't remember." Ow. Evelyn stepped through the door. The sun rose, warm, honest, no warping, no loops, just light. And in that moment, the house behind her exhaled and folded into silence. She stood in the field. No name, no past, only the feeling that something had been carried to its end. And in the sky above, for just 1 second, a shadow in the shape of a circle, closed perfectly.